During the late 60s, there are many parent running groups are complaining to the max at both the TV stations and Hanna-Barbera. They were protesting all about the superhero and action shows they made, and the pressure they put on was so huge they canceled all those shows in 1969. William Hanna and Joseph Barbera had to make a show that would satisfy both their audience and those parent groups. What came out of it was ScoobyDoo. It's about a group of teenagers with a dog who enters in some place where some freaky crap happens. Shaggy and Scooby suddenly found the monster that's freaking the place out, and it chases everybody. With the help of some Scooby snacks, they are able to find some clues, trap the monster, which turns out to be some guy in a costume, get him arrested, and solve the mystery. By the way, that wasn't the premise of the show. That's pretty much what happens in every single episode. I mean, the writing's not that hard. It all started when the executive of the kids shows on CBS, Fred Silverman, wanted to make a show that would, like I said earlier, satisfy both its audience and the nagging parent groups. When he released The Archie Show, it became a big success, and Fred wanted to release more shows like Archie. So he asked Hanna and Barbera to make a show about a teenage rock group like The Archie Show, but they also solved mysteries. The first idea they came up with that premise was Mystery 5. The only difficult thing to do now is to think of what kind of dog Too Much will be in the show. And yes, Scooby was supposed to be called Too Much. The writers, Joe Ruby and Ken Spears, had to ask themselves what kind of dog he is he big or small, is he brave or a coward, and more. When talking with Joe Barbera on this, he said that Too Much should be a large, goofy Great Dane. After Mystery 5, Silverman wanted to change some stuff on the show, like ditched the whole rock band idea, put in 4 teenagers instead of 5, and changed their names, and changed the title into Who's Scared? When showing it to the CBS executives, they rejected it because they think that it would be too scary for kids. So Silverman made some changes again by lowering the scariness and adding in more funniness, if that's a real word, and naming the dog Scooby-Doo, which he got the idea of the name from Frank Sinatra's version of Stranger in the Night. When it aired on September 13, 1969, the show was a massive hit. Hanna-Barbera eventually made more shows that are like Scooby-Doo, like Josie and the Pussycats, Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels, Speed Buggy, and Jabberjaw. In other words, they made their own rip-offs. After the release of Scooby-Doo Where Are You?, they made many other Scooby-Doo shows that each are slightly different than the others. Like the new Scooby-Doo movies had guest stars, some had different cartoons in them, like the Scooby-Doo and Dynamite Hour, and more. In 1979, they released a new Scooby-Doo show that introduced his nephew, Scrappy-Doo, which some people believe that he made the series suffer from the Cousin Oliver syndrome, where a show adds a cute young character that's related to the star of the show to boost up its ratings. During the 80s, Scrappy was pretty much in all of Scooby-Doo's spin-offs at the time, until 1998, when they released a pup named Scooby-Doo, where the characters are younger and the show is more reminiscent to the Tex Avery cartoons. By the 90s, Scooby-Doo shows were aired about everywhere, like on Cartoon Network, TBS, TNT, and Kids WB. Then there was 2002, where not only the revival What's New Scooby-Doo was aired, they even released a live-action film that made more than $150 million at the box office, and a sequel. As you can see, Scooby-Doo is one of the most popular cartoon characters of all times because he keeps on releasing more and more shows and direct-to-DVD movies that's about solving mysteries with his friends. Like Sesame Street, everybody has watched and enjoyed a Scooby-Doo show in one point of their lives. During the early 70s, Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera are considered gods of TV. They controlled 80% of children's programming, and they secured the top 3 Saturday morning ratings. One show that would help them stay at that position in 1973 was
The Super Friends, consisting of Superman, Batman and Robin, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and 2 random teenagers with their dog. This team of heroes always saved the day by foiling evil plans made by their arch nemesis.
Sorry, I just had to do it like that. Anyways, before these superheroes were doing this show, they used to all separately be in a cartoon show made by Filmation. But Batman and Robin did appear as guest stars in the new ScoobyDoo movies, along with the Joker and Penguin, twice! In Super Friends, they would have some other DC superheroes appearing as guest stars, like The Flash, Plastic Man, and the Green Arrow. During its running time, it only made 16 episodes, until its cancellation on August 24th, 1974. But then after that, there are some other superhero shows that began to pop out and become popular, like The $6 Million Man and the live-action Wonder Woman series. ABC decided to air reruns of the Super Friends to see if that would be popular too, and it was. So in 1977, they brought the Justice League back in the all-new Super Friends Hour. In this one, they separated the show in 4 parts. The first one is a short story of 2 randomly selected members of the Super Friends. The second one is about the new additions, the Wonder Twins. The third one is where all the Super Friends, including the Wonder Twins, are doing some action. And the final segment is one of the members, along with more DC hero guest stars, talking about safety lessons, magic tricks, and all that kind of bull crap. The next year, there was the Challenge of the Super Friends, which is probably the most popular one out of all of them, because this is the one where they introduced
The Legion of Doom!
Also, since they were only guest stars in the other shows, they decided to add The Flash, Green Lantern, and Hawkman to the Justice League. They also added some other superheroes that Hanna-Barbera created, like Black Vulcan, Apache Chief, and Samurai. Then there was the world's greatest Super Friends, which I think might be the weirdest out of all the Super Friends shows, because the stories are based around books, legends, and fairy tales. There's even one episode where they go to Middle Earth. Yes, people, the same Middle Earth from the Lord of the Rings. The next thing you know, they're gonna be in the world of Oz, and some characters will be the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion.
Great Zeus! I've been changed into the Lion from Oz.
And I'm the Scarecrow. I order you to change us back.
Oh my god, are you serious? Moving on to 1980, they released Super Friends, a different one, which includes some short reruns from the older series and new ones. During the second season, they introduced a new character made by Hanna-Barbera, El Dorado. In 1983, they released some lost episodes that were supposed to be with the older Super Friends shows. Then there was Super Friends, the legendary superpower show, where they actually replaced Aquaman with Firestorm. But he does make some cameos along with other DC heroes. And finally, in 1985, there was the Superpower Team, Galactic Guardians, which not only includes the heroes of Challenge of the Super Friends, but they also included Firestorm, El Dorado, and Cyborg. The show wasn't really popular and it only lasted 1 season, and thus puts an end to the Hanna-Barbera Super Friends series and its 13-year run. Now, remember what I said before about them being gods? Well, it didn't really last long. In the 70s, there has been competition that began to come out. As time moved on, up to the 80s, these rivals began to release shows that would overshadow Hanna-Barbera, like He-Man, Master of the Universe, and the Thundercats. Because of the other shows, their control over children's programming went totally downhill from 80% to 20%. The only show they released at the time that was popular was the Smurfs. It's about this really small village with these tiny blue guys called the Smurfs and a really hard-working girl Smurf named Smurfette. Why does she work so hard? Well, somebody's got to grow the population, and she's the only Smurf girl, so hop to it, Missy. The idea of the show began in 1976, where media entrepreneur Stuart R. Ross went on a trip to Belgium and stumbled upon The Smurfs, which was a Belgian comic book originally called by their French name, Les Schtroumpfs. I know it sounds German, but trust me, that's how we say it in French. Anyways, Stuart made an agreement with Peyo, the creator, and Édition Dupuis, the publisher of the Belgian comic book, to sell some merchandising in North America. A few years later, the Smurfs merchandise became a big success, especially with the figurines and the dolls. One day, NBC president Fred Silverman found his daughter holding her favorite Smurf doll in her hand and thought,
You know, maybe a show about the Smurfs will make a great addition for the Saturday morning lineup. Where's my phone? I gotta call Hanna-Barbera. My God, these phones are huge!
When it aired on NBC on September 12, 1981, it was a big success. It got a good place in pop culture during the 80s, and it got nominated many times for an Emmy and got 2 for Outstanding Children's Entertainment Series. It continued on making more episodes until December 2nd, 1989, when it got cancelled because the ratings were going low. Well, it did had a good run. I mean, they did release 256 episodes, but they didn't really end there. They were also featured in the Ultimate PSA crossover, Cartoon All-Stars to the Rescue. In 2008, Sony Pictures announced that they're gonna make a trilogy of the Smurfs in live action with CG Smurfs starting in 2011. But even with the Smurfs, Hanna-Barbera is still pretty low in the TV business. They ended up making cartoons that rips off Muppet Babies by making kid versions of their characters, like a pup named ScoobyDoo, the Flintstones Kids, and even other cartoon characters like Popeye and Son. Meanwhile, its parent company, Taft Broadcasting, is having major financial problems, and the American Financial Corporation bought Taft and renaming it Great American Broadcasting in 1987. Also, Hanna-Barbera's animation is now becoming like the others by making their animation in Australia and some countries in Asia, instead of animating in their own studio. In 1989, many of Hanna-Barbera's staff moved to Warner Brothers to make animated TV shows for them like Tiny Toons and Animaniacs. It was also the time when Great American put David Kirshner as the new chairman of Hanna-Barbera, who doesn't have a good relationship with Joe Barbera, like when David tried to stop Joe from doing the Tom and Jerry movie. Also, David tried to regain the money by making movies out of Bill and Joe's classic franchises, like The Jetsons and The Flintstones. But it all failed. In 1990, Great American was so much in debt that they had to sell Hanna-Barbera and another animation studio, Ruby Spears. But then their luck would change from crap to holy crap, when on November 1991, Turner Broadcasting has bought the entire Hanna-Barbera company and a lot of Ruby Spears stuff for $320 million. Turner's president of entertainment, Scotty Sasa, went to hire Fred Siebert, former executive of MTV Networks, to be the new head of the company. Fred here made some big changes at Hanna-Barbera by hiring new animators, new writers, new producers, new everything. Turner also gave Hanna-Barbera a new home in one of his channels on TBS, allowing them to make new shows for the channel on the Funtastic World of Hanna-Barbera TV block. In 1993, Cal Arts graduate Donna Van Cook would help them regain their popularity by making 2 Stupid Dogs. It's about one big dumb dog and one small dumb dog and, yeah. During the making of the show, John Kricfalusi, the creator of the Ren and Stimpy show, would come in and help make some episodes. There are also other people who worked at Spunko would come in and help from time to time too. During the show, there would be new segments of the Secret Squirrel called the Super Secret Squirrel, which was directed by Larry Huber, the executive producer of What a Cartoon. This show was the starting point of guys like Jendi Tartakovsky and Craig McCracken. What did they do? That's for later. When it was released, it was Hanna-Barbera's first success since the Smurfs, and that's like a decade ago, dudes.